Hey there. Thanks for hanging out with K-Dubs and listening to the podcast. Much appreciated. Check us out on YouTube. Shoot us an email. Let us know how we're doing. Hanging out with kdubs@gmail.com. And as always, enjoy the next episode. Jordan.
Kyle.
Thanks for coming.
You bet. I appreciate it.
I am excited about this. I really am, because I don't know jack shit about the glass industry. So this is going to be, for me, this is going to be awesome, because I'm kind of going into this a little bit blind. I didn't do any research when before we started, because I'm hoping you can teach a guy like me a little something.
We can talk it out. Teach you what I know, and I'm still learning too.
Well, I hope so. I think that's part of the human race, is to keep learning and keep getting better. But let's just start off with some background on you. Obviously, you get out of high school and take it from there.
Sure. So, got out of high school, was playing football, did well in that, and wanted to play in college. Stayed local, played at Whitewater for a bit, and really I got into. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but I was in college, 07 to 2010, and those were recession times, and kind of had to take a hard look at. I saw some of my classmates. I saw myself, people that got into college and were now graduating and didn't necessarily get to go into the field that they wanted to. They had to take a job that was available or what was best for them at the time. And, school just wasn't really for me, and manual labor was. Liked working with my hands, and liked the, if you go back to football, I liked the team aspect of being out there with the guys. There's some camaraderie in that, and it makes the day go faster. And I was always kind of drawn to that, and, to be a leader on your team. And so I had a job early on when my class schedule was part-time, a couple days a week and Saturdays, working for a glass company, and it was just something I really enjoyed. Like seeing the progress. And, there was a lot of, you're part of building something, and it's going to stand there for a while, until they knock it down.
And that's a cool feeling when you're part of building something like that. It doesn't matter if it's a house or if it's a car or a project or something. Whenever you can be involved in something like that, it's like, oh man, this, and then you see the outcome of it, and you're like, wow, I was part of that.
Yeah, and it makes you proud to drive by. You go through that town or through the cities, or you're on the highway, and you point out that building, and we were on that, and we completed that, and it's hard to drive around anywhere and not see one that we've been a part of now.
So when you were working for the glass company that you're talking about, I'm assuming you were a laborer then at that point?
Yep, just a laborer, and always wanted to do more, or showed that I could do more, than what maybe just a laborer is capable of. And I was interested in it, and, but there was a lot of work. We were doing a ton of work. And so I gained a lot of experience quickly, faster than maybe some other companies would, just because of how many jobs we had going all the time.
Well, and then I think you said it too. You kind of got a passion for it a little bit too. So now all of a sudden you're doing your job, but you're also watching other people do their job, and you're like, oh, hey, maybe I could do that. Or, hey, maybe I could do that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I thought it was something that I could see myself doing, for the rest of my career. And with the goal always being that I wanted to have a company of my own at some point. And I kind of put a goal on that of, like, by the time I'm 30 years old, I want to own my own company, and whatever it would take to get there. So I went to work for another glass company in Fort Atkinson, Baker Glass, and I brought the commercial experience there. They were, coming out of the recession, kind of have a crossroads. They were surviving on residential, and had kind of shied back from the commercial work a little bit. And so once they hired me, we kind of said, hey, start bidding more commercial work. I'd be happy to help and, show you what we can do. And when I started there, it was myself and one other guy. And the
really?
Owners. Yep, correct. So
it was a real Baker Glass at that point was a small glass company then.
Mom and pop shop. I mean, like 4 employees in the field was pretty much the most that they ever had at the time. And that was when they were heavier into commercial. And then, they just had backed off a little bit. And so I said, myself and this one other gentleman, we can do a fair amount, but to kind of get where I think you want to go, we're going to need some help. So we did hire another gentleman. We of course hired a couple guys that didn't make it. Then we had a decent crew, just kind of a 2-man wrecking crew. And then the other gentleman would continue to fabricate our aluminum storefront for commercial that we did in the shop. So we were just doing a lot of door packages, a lot of smaller storefront, nothing on the scale like we're doing now, but it was just kind of starting to build on that, project by project.
Yeah. So when you got started there, and then you hired a third person or whatever on, or they hired a third person on, I should say. You were doing like windows on old houses, brand new houses. You were installing them then?
So kind of there's residential and commercial for most glass companies. Some specialize in other areas. At that time, they were just doing a lot of replacement windows. If you have glass where the seal failed, or, threw a rock from a lawnmower and broke the glass, those types of insulated glass thermal pane replacements. And they were doing a lot of that. They were still doing some auto glass at that point. But the experience that I had was commercial storefront. So if it's retail, you walk into a Starbucks, those are all aluminum windows with insulated glass, the swinging aluminum doors. Bigger stuff, these industrial spec buildings that you see, precast tilt-ups, they've got windows in the clear story. That would be the second floor, around the bottoms, punched openings. That was what I had done a lot of.
So that's what kind of you specialized in at that point.
Yeah, that's where I had kind of cut my teeth or got my experience working, when I was at the previous glass company, I worked side by side with a gentleman named Ron, and he kind of taught me everything. I mean, we had to get it done together. And we worked in bigger teams there as well, but a lot of times it was him and I going and doing some of these smaller scale door packages and smaller storefront every day. So that was a perfect stepping stone for me to bring that to Baker Glass, because I was like, we're capable of this, and I also have been a part of, the bigger jobs.
Yeah, because you got the experience at that point. You can say, hey, I know we can go over to that Starbucks, and I know we can hammer them windows out. We can put them in, and we can do it professionally, we can do it cleanly, and we can do it competitively.
Yep, and I was young and ambitious, so I wasn't ever really on the bidding side. They knew their costs and everything at that point, and I was just, this kind of came full circle for me when we had our closing, when I bought the business, is, when I went in there and interviewed, I had let them know. I said, I went there in July of 2013, and I just said, I'm going to be 100% honest. My goal is this company I'm going to use as a stepping stone, or I'm going to own it. And both, Dave and Marcia, my previous bosses, kind of looked at me like, oh, wow. I probably never heard anybody say that before. Everybody else just wants a job.
Well, especially a mid-20s kid coming in saying that, I'm sure they kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah. So,
you're either going to use the experience and leave, or you're going to buy me out? What?
Correct. So, yeah, we started kind of racking up the commercial, still doing a bunch of residential at the same time. And but, you start to do more jobs and you're bidding and working for these general contractors. They send out invitations to bid. And, those come through the office, review the project. Is it something you want to go after? Does it fit your size company? Whatnot. So we were picking, or going after competitively the jobs that we know we could do. And during those times, you only have, at that time, 3 of us in the field and a couple people in the office. Overhead's pretty low. So, and they were getting towards the end of their careers, so their financial position is different than
what yours is. Absolutely
different than mine. So,
100%.
They're, they can afford to maybe take a bump here. Or they can also afford to go after that job if we just need the hours, versus my position. You need to be profitable on most every job.
Well, I think that's important. I think that's an important thing that you brought up, because every generation has learned like a school of hard knocks, right? Every generation has gone one step or another step and another step. But somebody who's 60 years old, their financial independence is going to be different than somebody who's 25 or 30. And that's strictly based on, like, for instance, the old owners that you're talking about. They were towards the end of their career. They had already built the business. They had already done all this. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they had to do to be profitable, and they knew what they had to do to get to retirement. Where you were an ambitious young man and decided, I need to do something here because I want to go forward. I want to continue this business, but I also want to be financially independent as well, especially when you get to their age. Now you can say, hey, I can hire a manager to do this, and I can hire guys to do that at 60 or whatever that whatever the case would be 25, 30 years from now. But it is an important thing because everybody's viewpoint is going to be different, especially when the age gap is different as well.
That was so.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. So
I just thought that was an important point.
If we fast forward, then so I was in the field for a couple of years, and it was a yearly review. I think it was end of year 2. So this is like 2015. I just approached them at the end of my review. It's mostly back and forth, and this is what you're doing well, and this is what you need to improve on, and now here's your floor, here's your time to speak. And I said, well, I have, looked at some certain things. I've talked with, my wife, and I would like to purchase Baker Glass. And it was a pretty cool moment because they both looked at me and they said, we were going to ask you the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah. And
so they thought that highly of you as well to be able to do that.
So that was really, if you're being a good earner and you're working for a company, you want to prove to yourself, but you also want to please. And that was kind of like my aha moment of they had rewarded me through raises and whatnot, but that was really kind of the pat on the back. And it was like, all right, my head's in the right place. Like this, they believe in me also,
Absolutely.
Because if I just approach them with that and they say, well, I don't know, or you haven't shown us enough, but for them to say, we've talked it over and we were going to ask you tonight if that's something you'd be interested in.
Awesome.
So the process that I went through with that is, I'm a younger guy. I just got married, bought a house. And although I had been, that was a carrot that was out in front of me, but now the real,
it's not dangling there anymore.
No. And the real part about it is, you take that leap of faith, but then it is, okay, well, how am I really going to do this? No, it's something I've never done before. Buying a house is just going to the bank, making sure you make enough money to afford your mortgage.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And, here's your 20% down and sign away. And
here you go.
You've got a house. Well, it was a great, great learning experience because now you get to see both sides. So I have to bring what I need to bring to the table. But then also now what I learned is if you have enough money, you can buy anything you want. It's much harder to sell a business than it is to buy one. Because being at my age, limited capital, I'm doing this any way that I can. So we have to be kind of creative because I just don't have a check to write for what the valuation of this business is.
We're just going to use some stupid numbers, but the valuation of this business is $100,000, and you're like, well, I've got $2,000 in my checking account.
Right.
How can I show the bank that I can buy this business and be profitable enough, not only to pay myself a wage, but to pay at that point in time the one or two people that were going to come with the business, the lights, the building, the taxes, et cetera, et cetera, everything. Et cetera. And then I've only got $2,000 in my checking account to be able to do this. So correct. To get to, what was the word you just used? I forgot the word already.
All right. I'll tell you how I did it.
Yeah. I'd like to hear it.
So the most creative way and what was
creative. Thank you. That was the word.
Going to be, fruitful for both or beneficial to both sides was I did a stock purchase. So I basically deferred any future raises. I was at salary at this point. And, what kind of led to this, I'll back up just for a minute, is I had done a couple of years in the field, and then I approached them, and they also did, they were actually looking to hire an estimator to estimate commercial projects for them.
Okay, I'm glad you're going this route because I was going to ask you about this.
I got ahead of myself.
No. You're good. You're good.
So, yes, it's kind of cool to look back on the whole thing because I haven't really thought about it recently. But, so they had put an ad out for an estimator, and they really hadn't had, things were kind of rolling again. Economy was better. Everyone's kind of happy where they're at. You're maybe hoping someone would jump ship or want to improve their work atmosphere. And they really weren't getting many bites. And I don't know if that's, what they were offering for pay. I never looked at the ad. And we would have like weekly meetings. I think they were Wednesday nights. And they were just like, we've been looking for an estimator and we think we've got one right here. You're already been working on the jobs. You know the labor, you're good communication back and forth with us. Dave's telling you, we had 80 hours on this job and got it done in 60, or it went to 90, and what could we have done better, et cetera. So I had that kind of in my back pocket. Now all I kind of had to learn and dive into were what are the numbers, and that's where I got to really learn the business, because I could put a dollar amount on a job of what I think it is, but it has to relate to how your company runs.
Agreed. 100%.
You can't do this job for, and we get feedback, or you'd hear I like to follow up and say, where do we come in on this Starbucks that I did? Well, you were bridesmaid, you were second to the party, you were off by 5%. And, sometimes you hear just a barn burner low number, and it's like, let them have it.
Good for you, man.
Or,
get it done.
Or you get some feedback and it's like, I went to so-and-so and they were so much cheaper. And especially now in the position I'm in now, it's like, they can be in a completely different financial predicament than I am.
Absolutely.
I'm growing my business. I've invested in my business. I have paid my people, and what it costs me $1 per hour to run my company might not be the same as a 2-man band down the street.
That's exactly correct.
So if they can do it cheaper, let them do it. And if it's a quality product, good. So back to that, I got to, see more of the financials, and that was important, and part of all these steps were, you sign, NDAs and,
of course,
confidentiality. And then when we got more serious about the purchasing Baker Glass, I had they got to protect themselves. So
no doubt.
What's the old thing I signed so I couldn't go work anywhere else?
Yeah. The non-compete clause,
non-compete agreement, and it's like, well, you don't want me to ever go get a job in a 1-hour radius of where I live, but so those don't really stand up, but it never got to that, thank goodness. But so I get to diving in, and I was just, they were obviously keeping track and I was keeping track too. We worked with a couple people to really like tie in our numbers, and I had like a pretty solid, and I still use it to this day. I have a bid recap sheet. I plug in all my numbers. Every month and at least every quarter at a minimum, I run all of my business's numbers, and I know exactly dollar per hour what it costs me to run a guy. You. So then what it allows me to do is when I have that bid recap, I plug in all that material, I plug in the labor, I have like a margin for error. This is how many hours we can go over. This is how much material I could maybe miscalculate or be under. Small accidents in regards to maybe glass breaking, or, just, one piece of glass can be in excess of $200. Just,
right.
You can have a couple pieces of glass tip over in the wind, although we preach they shouldn't. Just stuff happens. You got to have a little buffer in there. And so, use that bid recap, and that really, as long as you keep those numbers in tune and you don't have a formula messed up and you do a double check, it's pretty fail proof for me. But, when you first start, and when I wanted to get them all, and I didn't want to get them all by undercutting or trying to do it cheap, but you just, the first couple
to
ones
grow the business.
Yeah. But the first couple ones you don't get as an estimator, we're still working for the old owners. Like, it kind of hurts. Well, then I still remember the first one I ever got. We did a Grand Appliance. They're like an ABT. They sell, it's like Best Buy, but just appliances.
Okay.
Up in Sun Prairie. And we did that job. And when I did the estimating, I was like a hybrid position. So I still worked in the field. And then a couple days a week, I did the estimating. And that was the first job I bid. And not the first job I bid. The first job I was awarded. And it was like, it's crazy how small the numbers are now. It's like $28,000 contract, right? Which that's like a $50,000 job now, just with everything that's been going on. Like,
right.
And we can dive into a little bit of that, but, you know, I had my hours plugged in there. I think I had like 130 hours or something on the job, and materials were kind of minimal, and finished within 1 hour of the projected time.
Good for you.
We were up on the job, and I'm like looking at the clock. I'm like, I'm keeping track. I'm like, how many hours did you have yesterday, Brian? You know, how many hours, you know, whatever. And we nailed it, and that was a good little confidence booster. And then, you know, obviously you're going to have a couple that are, holy cow. And what is very beneficial to my situation, although it may not have been beneficial to the owners at that time, and some of the things that I go through now, is the number one thing that I'm extremely thankful for is I got to learn and make those mistakes, and I made those mistakes on someone else's dime. And when you look back at the whole picture, with how tight I am and running my ship the way I do now, is like, the grace or the mercy they showed to me if I had a project that didn't go well. I was feeling terrible, torn up about it. There were, you know, we had some tough conversations, but for the most part, it was always like, well, let's go make it up on the next one, or what can we do here? And, you know, so when you look back at that, and it's like, holy cow, I mean, I got to train, I got thrown to the wolves. I did everything I thought was best. And some of them were great, and some of them were not great.
Well, that's the big thing about learning too. You're going to have failures when you learn. Good, bad, or otherwise. Some are going to be catastrophic failures. Some are going to be minute failures, but you're still going to have failures. So as long as you learn from them for the next time, that's going to improve.
Yeah. And I'm stubborn by nature. I mean, I would take some of those, you know, losses to heart, and it's like, that's not going to happen again. And, you know, so that kind of made each project better. And then, where I think maybe I started to mature was I would, through my own experience, is I'd have a job then that my boss really wanted to go after. And I had a few jobs, probably a handful of times, that I had, you know, 10, 15 hours into this bid, getting multiple numbers, putting this whole thing together, typing the proposal, and staring at the bottom line and saying, I don't think we should do it. What do you mean? We've got, you know, a couple days into this thing, or, you know, they're paying me to do my job. But I'm just like,
yeah, sometimes you got to give your personal.
I don't have a good feeling about this one. And in where we were at was, you know, we still had a smaller crew, and it's like, look at this. This job is 400 man hours. Okay, well, that's going to stretch out because you're going to have field measure, then fabrication, then you're going to go back, put in frames. A couple of weeks later, at that time, lead times were about 2 weeks on glass. You know, it's 400 hours. Yeah, that's if you were there every single day with a multiple man crew.
Correct.
Nonstop. But based on the size that we are right now, we have no time for anything else then. So we jump into this job, and we're on it, and we get a call. Someone needs service. Someone needs a quick fix on a door that's hanging off the hinge, and you've got your whole crew, 4 guys up in Milwaukee, tackling this monster of a job, and now you can't service them.
Right.
So what's the damage? Trying to keep everybody happy is the goal, and not overextending yourself. So
exactly,
those are some of the learning things. And yeah, as much as, you know, greed or whatever might, that'd be awesome one to have, or that would really build our portfolio. It was good to learn. I mean, there's some you just can't take. And that came from getting burned on a couple of smaller ones. You know, it's like, well, if we don't have those dialed in, we can't really make that jump right now.
Right.
So I got a couple more years of experience doing that. And then, approached him about the sale, and I didn't, really have the money. I didn't really want to ask for it. I've always kind of had the mentality like I'll figure it out, or like I will make it work.
Exactly.
And, and that's with every decision, even I make to this day. I'm confident in myself and our crew, and I know that we can go get it. There's times where, shout out to my amazing wife. It's like, I'll come home sometimes and I'm like, it's do or die. You're not going to see me for a month. Like I will be there as much as I can, but you're going to have to hold the fort down. And she does. And she just knows like it's bidding season or, work's getting light. Got to get after it. Got to go get it. Banging on doors again, calling up contractors you haven't worked with for a while. And, seeing where they're at. And, a lot of jobs come back around to that way, or they started using a different glazer and all of a sudden you're back in, they mess something up or,
right.
or project managers and people change. So
sure do.
All of a sudden they go to another company and you get a call from a number you've never seen. And here it's a guy you have a great relationship with that just went to a different company and you never worked for that general before. And now he's the guy and now you're doing work for them. And that's been fruitful. So, but yeah, not to get off track. So I didn't, how are we going to make this work? So we entered into a stock purchase agreement.
So were they a public company?
Nope. So you can still private stock.
Correct.
So they would bring me on as a minority owner.
Correct.
So essentially what I did is I deferred any future raises. I was making salary at the time, had a company truck. So I didn't have a whole lot of outside expenses. And other than, just being a couple with my wife and we just had our first daughter, Alex. She's going to be 6 and it's amazing how time flies, but it's like, married, house, baby, I'm going to buy a business and I'm going to get this done by the time I'm 30, and so what they would essentially do is we kind of set out some performance benchmarks that we wanted to meet in regards to sales, obviously profitability with that, and really started keeping track of all the jobs that I was bidding and doing, because we were doing roughly 40 to 60 commercial projects a year, and that would all be sizable. We're talking like $10,000 or more. Not just a door.
Wow.
These are just like good sized projects. Built the crew up at that time, like to 4 or 5 consistent guys, and I was able to be a help in hiring because I'm kind of hiring my future. And so what I was still doing well, and basically I would receive a bonus in March, and I turn around, I pay tax on that bonus, and I turn around, I write a check back for the full amount. And, so I earned my bonus, but then now I've just purchased stock in the company. And what that allowed me to do is, to build up my equity in the company, and that would be a form of my down payment, so I didn't have to.
It's brilliant.
Try to, and it's
brilliant.
It kept everybody honest, and it obviously kept me very driven,
focused, absolutely
focused on the prize, and it also kept the previous owners headed down the right path and knowing that I'm committed.
I was just going to bring that up too.
The only way he gets this is if he performs, and the only way I am able to purchase this company is make sure this company is still around. We're all doing.
I was just going to say that whole stock thing works both ways, because the original owners still have their hands in it. It doesn't matter what the percentages are; they still have their hands in it, and they can say, "Hey, Jordan, I don't think you should go this route. We've tried this 20 years ago. You do what you want." Because obviously, the way this is going, you're buying more stock, we're selling more stock, it's going to be yours anyway. But at least you still have that guidance there as well. And then they still had their hands in the business to say, hey, we looked over the numbers this last quarter, and you're doing real good, kid. So
yep.
you keep this up, and it's just a brilliant way to do that.
It is, and it's not for everyone either. because I'll tell you what it does. Whether you want it to or not, it can change the dynamic.
I can believe that.
Because we kind of briefly touched on this earlier, but when they're at the end of their career and I'm ambitious and wanting to start mine, they're in an exit strategy and I'm in a growth strategy.
They're pulling the reins back. You're wanting to let them go.
Yeah. So naturally, what ends up happening is now you have financial decisions, right? So I'm just a minority owner. Now, if I don't have capital to really bring in to the business at this point, and we decide we want a new service truck. Okay, well, now you're 50, 60 grand for a new service truck. Well,
back then,
who's going to buy it, right? Who's going to buy it? Is future ownership going to buy it? Because the good part about the deal that I worked out was I bought it for X on the day I entered the agreement. If we build this company to where it's valued, they do
higher.
a third-party valuation, and it's worth a couple $100,000, $500,000 more 3 years down the road. So I entered a 3-year buyout. I still got it for the opening day price. So
that was smart on your end.
Now, it could also flip the other way, but we were all kind of protected to get out of the agreement. The thing that made me a little uneasy sometimes was, the way contracts are written when we enter that agreement, it's very owner protective. I mean, they could wake up one morning and say, have cold feet, or if my performance wasn't what they thought it should be, or, all of a sudden their expectations just become, we want you to meet this, this, and this. And it's like, it's not attainable with what we have. And, but it never really got that bad.
Good.
Good. It was pretty cordial, but, it did get to a certain point where I was like, I'm getting this done sooner than later. Yeah. So I got it done in 2 years instead of the 3.
Good for you.
And, so we closed on the business. It was, June 27th, 2019. So that's how long we've owned it. Myself, my wife is my supporter. She's involved to a point. But my decisions and what I'm doing are mine to own. And, so now we have 8 employees, not including myself, but, what really was a great thing about the previous ownership was, I had the team aspect and all those types of things, but I was really kind of cutthroat and go-getter. They were very much about good character and the right people. And that was something that I really started to kind of take to heart, because kind of how we feel about things now, especially in recent times, is it's like when we go to hire anybody, if they're a good individual, a good human, we can likely, if they have some aptitude, we can teach them what we need them to do. It's not overly complicated work. You've got people that excel at the thinking part of it, along with myself, and then you've got people that just need to do the hands-on work. But I can't tell you how many people I've possibly had or interviewed that they came from somewhere else and they knew everything, but they were very abrasive and they just didn't fit. They didn't gel with, the culture that we've built. And, we try to do, we're going salmon fishing tomorrow as a crew.
Nice.
All of us are going out and, looking forward to that. We try to do that once. Sometimes we've done it twice a year, and, just like cookouts, the small things,
employees, let me just say this. Employees like to feel that, they like to feel that they're being taken care of. And as an owner or a boss, you can start doing those things, man, those guys and girls are going to appreciate that, because they're going to take it to heart and say, they didn't have to take us salmon fishing. We didn't have to have a big cookout today, but they did that because we are doing our jobs. We're doing it right. We're doing it well. We're being efficient. That matters.
100%. And I'm very cognizant of, we're to the point, if we're a 1 or 2 man band and the only guy I have working for me leaves, you can do a certain amount of work yourself, right? But now when I have 8 other people that them and their families depend,
on you,
myself and their significant other, right? So I am also helping provide. On the flip side of that is, if one day came and none of them showed up to work, I have nothing. So it's very much a two-way street.
Absolutely.
It's give and take. And, I've never lost sight of that throughout growing. I mean, we've done a lot of awesome things. We've taken on bigger projects. I can't say enough about the people that are working for us. And I'm very, very grateful, but they, at the same time, as much as I feel like I'm doing for them, they're doing for me. They still provide like that team atmosphere. I look forward every day to going and working with them and for them. It's like, I gotta go get the jobs. I gotta handle, I run the whole show. I have an office manager, but in regards to everything we do, it all runs through me. I don't have a project manager or anyone else underneath me to kind of lighten the load. And those are the next steps, that are coming down the pipeline. I just had to, I've got a pretty big nut that I got to pay up, and we're about halfway through that, goal now. And, but we bought a new shop. We were at a really small location since the beginning of Baker Glass, 1933. So we just,
wow,
yeah,
1933.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So they, it's kind of cool. It started out as just like a salvage yard and, full service gas station. My old office where I used to sit was one of the bays where they drive a car and a wrench on it.
Hey, and whatever works.
Yeah. So there's, right now there's Dependable Auto Parts is right behind it. And the grandmother lived on the corner, one of the bakers, and they had this little, got the cool old Shell pumps, Shell gas station, and working on cars, doing the whole bit. And, at least some of the stories that are told to me back in those days, a lot of like the big three automakers, a lot of the windshields were very similar or a lot of interchangeable. So they started to, a lot of it was just,
I could see that, because if you go from like a Model A to, although there was a split window, and they were all kind of rectangular formed, and
they weren't safety glass by any means.
No, they were simple.
Just 1/4-inch plate glass, or 3/16 even thinner, and they could cut those right in the shop. And some of them, they'd order, and if they had any curvature to them. But they started to do auto glass as one of their services, and it really picked up. And they stopped wrenching on cars. And all of your old storefronts in these downtowns, they all have the big, we call them widow makers. They have these huge pieces of 1/4-inch glass that are, an old storefront framing. And, so they're like, well, we can do the windshields, we can do that, same type of glass, same concept. And so that was, but they always just, it was like a 2-man band, but they provided a service, and they were the only service at that time.
And they were probably good at it.
Yeah. And they learned a lot. So they get down the road, and my old boss, Dave, he married Marcia, and Marcia was a baker, and he had auto body experience. Cars and all that are his passion. And they decided, Marcia's dad, Bill, was like, I'm getting close to retirement. You guys want to take Baker Glass over? And Dave had told me that, Bill had agreed to kind of stay on for 6 months and teach him the ropes, so he kind of gave up his auto body career and all that. And he admits it was a time for a change for him. Insurance companies and all that started dictating how long everything takes. And he was old school, but very, very good, can paint, do everything. And like 2 weeks after they were going to go on a 1-month vacation in an RV around the United States. Bill called them 2 weeks later, 2 weeks into their vacation, was like, I'm going to Florida. Baker Glass is yours. No sticking around for 6 months. You want to talk about learning?
Oh, you got to learn quick on your feet there.
Yeah, I think one time Dave told me, he's like, man, everything I made off the auto body business went right into, losing my
business.
Hide, just because he had to figure it out. And he did a great job, and they're great people. And Dave was certainly like a mentor to me, but all those good qualities and what they it was the first place like I had gone to work where you really felt appreciated. And that was just something I hadn't really had anywhere else unless it was working for a friend, and
employees remember that.
Mm-hmm.
So if they ever become bosses or they ever own a business, they remember like, hey, I remember we used to go out for picnics. I remember we used to go to so-and-so for a fun night. And they don't forget those things.
No, it's little stuff. I mean, we actually need to do it. We've been talking about it for a little bit, but we'll go to the Red Wing boot store. We get the whole crew boots. Like I supply all their apparel, just, so they're professional looking, but
absolutely,
there's just certain stuff that, we try to do, if we got a rainy morning or something, we do breakfast and, just that it's what's beneficial for me is, although I feel like, yeah, great, I'm doing this for them. It's my one chance to hear about things that don't relate to work.
Right.
What have you got going on? What do you
how's
guys
the family?
doing?
How's the wife? How's the girlfriend, boyfriend, et cetera, et cetera.
Telling us about, vacations coming up or whatever they're going to do and hearing about their hobbies. And that's been the, as much as they may need me on a certain day, I need them too.
Yeah.
And what they do for me and they do for, my mental aspect of it, it keeps me grinding and I want to go work for them as well. And that's just what it's a perfect, right now it's just the perfect combination of
good
of everything. But
so you've obviously, you said you just moved shops. So
that was fun.
I'm assuming it's did you build it? Did you buy it?
No. So I, kind of cool. I don't want to get too crazy long-winded on you, but I love to hunt. I get invited on this duck hunting trip on like a Wednesday night. They're like, hey, we're going to Arkansas on Friday. We just had a guy like drop out. Would you want to fill in? And I only knew one guy in the group. So I was like, yeah, I'll go, whatever. I can gab. I get along with people enough to a point. And so you spend a lot of time, and we go down there. We have a great time, get to know these other guys, and they're Fort Atkinson guys, local to my business. And another one runs a business in town, and the other one had a business in town. And, one guy I was hanging out with that invited me on the trip. He's a real estate broker. And, I kind of had put the feelers out there. I said, hey, we're kind of looking for something. Can't really expand where we're at. We're kind of landlocked. We had a house, believe it or not, on either side of our shop. And there's just no chance to grow there. And now at this time, prices to build are through the roof. Everybody wants
they are
unbelievable. You're getting in bidding wars over land, and I'm knocking on people's doors that we've done work for or other business people we know in town. I'm like, hey, would you sell me 2 acres? Would you sell me an acre? Would you sell me anything? And they're, no, we're kind of holding on to what we got, and there's nowhere to go. And I had other buildings that would come up and take a look at, and they don't fit your business. We're kind of specialized. We need fabrication space. We need space to store inside. And, you can't just have a pile of crap laying everywhere. It's gotta kind of work, and locations gotta work, and the whole 9 yards. So get back to this. I've a couple of guys on the hunting trip. We went on another hunting trip together, and we're doing work for them at their houses, and we're starting to get to know each other and whatnot. And now
becoming friends now.
Yeah, the one gentleman, Bob, he writes all my insurance, and he was on that trip, and he runs a great business in town. And
what's that called?
Day Insurance.
Day Insurance. Shout out to them.
Shout out to them. And he had the same situation as me. He bought out his previous employer, and so his name is Bob, and I'm venting to him. We're keeping in touch, and I'm like, gosh, I'm just like, this building thing is driving me nuts. I don't know what to do. We've outgrown this place 5 years ago, and whatever.
You're making it work, but it's not ideal.
Inefficient. And he's like, well, I might know about a place. And I said, well, what's that? And he's like, his family, his father and his uncle owned Jonas Office Products, and they were going to be shutting down their business, selling out a portion to it and shutting down the rest. And so got in, had a meeting, sat down with them. They showed me their asking price. It was fair, and I didn't haggle with them, and we closed 30 days later.
Good for you.
So They're 2 5,000 square foot. They were just, cold storage buildings. So one of them we still use as cold storage, just park trucks, trailers, glass, everything in there. And then the other one we completely had spray foamed. Bill Peterson, Metal Masters guys came up.
Right down here, right down the road from me here.
Yep. They came up and did my ceiling for me. Guys knocked that out. They redid that building, had a nailed on roof. They pulled every nail up there. They put the screws with the rubber washers on and, made it sealed up because I bought the building. I closed on it November 1st. We didn't have any rain. I think I was looking at it in the beginning of October, and I'd never been there really on a rain day. And first rain we get, it's like one of my guys is like, I see like 19 leaks on the floor, and like,
oh no,
we gotta, the roof the buildings are in great shape.
Yeah,
they're dated, but come to find out they're all nailed on. And so yeah, Bill and his guys got up there and they pulled every nail on that roof and
screwed the new ones, screwed the new rubber screws in there. And,
yep, caulked over the top. They put new ridge vent on, so they really made that great. Had the whole thing's may have mentioned spray foam, new electrical done, and then we moved over. I have a 2,000 square foot office is attached, and that was just wide open. It was just a showroom. So we self-performed everything but the electrical and the drywall finishing. I've got a gentleman, Austin Schwartz, on our team that he had, steel stud experience and frame carpentry experience. So he was
You turned him loose.
Yeah, he was the driver, and it came at a pretty good time because we were, kind of up and down with work. We just projects pushed out and kind of had some lulls, and you just got to do it. It's like we got to move. We got to
time out. Got to get this done.
Yeah, we really made it pretty nice. Thought it out. Did a bunch of cool old, reclaimed barnwood and beams and tin and yeah, just really made it home, and it's cozy, but it's also very, very classy. And so yeah, we moved over there officially June 1st.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was bought in November, and it took a while to get everything. You're fighting some winter conditions.
Yeah, obviously.
But no, so we're fully moved over, and people know we're there. We
awesome.
haven't had any issues.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's a little bit on that, but we'll be there. I've got room to expand on that property.
Good.
So we've got 12,000 square feet of space now.
Oh, great.
We had literally like 3,000 before, including office.
So you quadrupled in size then.
Well, yeah, we just had
That's
to.
great.
We had to.
So why don't we get into some of the actual window business itself? So I'm assuming you guys have a manufacturer of glass that you work with.
Yep, we've got a couple different suppliers.
You don't have to name names or anything like that.
No, sure.
I just was curious on how.
For anybody who's got like something residential at home, shower doors, mirrors, those are all coming from, float glass fabricators. Tempered piece of glass is the glass that you've probably done it before, shatters into a million pieces. Annealed is where we call it a widowmaker. That's where it's the big shards. That's the movie where a guy gets
stabs
a guy gets thrown through the 30th floor on a high-rise building. Trust me, it's not annealed.
It's not that simple.
It's not glass like that.
Yeah,
and that's for the movies, or a guy gets thrown through a tabletop, and so by code and the way all that stuff is, that's tempered. That's all done in a kiln and quench and the whole 9 yards. You have to have a gigantic oven and a whole line to do that type of stuff. So basically, if you were to come to me and you want a shower door, we draw it up, put it in a software program, we send those drawings out, and our suppliers that we work with fabricate the glass and then ship it to us based on their lead time.
So do they cut the glass and everything there? So when you get it, it's in form, ready to be installed?
Yep, for anything that's custom measured. Now, if you have we call them onesie, twosie shop orders, if you break a storm window out, you have older wood sashes where, you just need small panes with actual old glazing, the window putty, those are screen repair, all those things. We do all that in-house.
Okay.
If it doesn't have to be tempered by code. Now, if it's something that's in a door, in a slip or fall hazard, by code, it's got to be tempered, or we sometimes even take the liberty of making sure it's tempered just for liability concerns. So that's we order any of that stuff out. The other stuff, we keep stock sheets of it in our shop, and we cut it on our tables.
What's the other stuff?
That would be the float glass or, your annealed stuff. 1/4-inch plate, double strength is 1/8 inch. You got single strength. That's all your stuff for doing smaller window panes. Older homes, farmhouses, Victorian houses, they haven't upgraded or can't upgrade sometimes to, architectural windows that, have good R value.
Yeah. I'm picking up what you're laying down.
Yeah. So any old stuff, kid throws a rock through a window, if it's not tempered, that type of stuff we fix. Now, if it's an insulated glass unit, it's 2 pieces of glass with a band in between and, argon fill and low E coating and the whole 9 yards to give you the best, R value in your home. And we do whatever we got to do to match, what you were supplied with. And between the suppliers that we use, it's almost a dead match every time.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But, so the shop work stuff kind of goes in waves. You've got your busy seasons. You got, people that spring's a great one, right? So spring, people get outside and they start to look at their house and, they've got tax return coming and all right, we're going to fix these windows or we're going to do this.
Or in the wintertime, we know these windows are drafty as shit. Yeah, we need to get them changed.
Yeah, we know they're terrible. And so yeah, that's, excuse me, that's, when you kind of see a lot of that work come up and a lot of quotes coming through for replacement windows or brand new furnish onlys. And, everyone's it's interesting. People are kind of wired the same. You get a lot of the same requests, even though these people don't know each other. I might go 2-3 days in a row where people are stopping in. They want a new shower door for their home. You might go a week without anybody calling about a shower door, and then you can have 5 people calling one day the next day. It's just can be streaky and
weird.
But, people are on the same schedules. If redoing the bathroom is a good winter project,
absolutely,
you have multiple people doing. And COVID was a big, driver of that.
I'm sure you did a lot of home improvements during COVID.
It was unbelievable.
So do you guys do more commercial or more residential?
80% commercial, 20% residential.
So now commercial is storefronts, things like that?
Storefront, curtain walls. So, if you have school projects, aluminum door entries going in, industrial precast buildings, these are your big 100,000 square foot tilt ups that they're doing in a lot of these industrial parks. You see them, especially other areas, but, we travel about an hour as our service area. And, those all require aluminum storefront to some extent. We like to joke there's no building that's built that doesn't have a window.
Yeah, exactly.
Or a door. Like they have to. And then some more, like cooler custom projects. We've got one coming up, the Village Supper Club that was on Delavan Lake. They completely raised that and knocked it down and are building brand new. We've got some projects in Menominee Falls, Beloit. We just did Starbucks in Janesville. So it's kind of all over. We do some out-of-state work. But the aluminum storefront is, it's long-lasting. Realistically, the life of the building, I say that now, is, people do complete remodels in that sometimes every 10 years. But, you got to probably figure 20-year life, and then someone else, that building's going to change hands. It's going to change tenants.
Complete different business in that building.
We've done jobs. We did a strip mall up in the Waukesha area that we took brand new storefront that we put in out. So they built the building on spec with a couple of anchor tenants. And then Old Navy came into the middle, and Old Navy's storefront's got to look like what they want.
Yep.
Not what the architect drew up for the original, box. So, because what they'll do is they'll build a...
So you literally put that in there the way the original architect was. And then Old Navy came in and said, no. Yep. We got to have it this way.
They sign a lease agreement, and every one of their stores, they want the front when you walk in to look the same, have continuity. And yeah, we tore a brand new storefront that had only been, it had probably been completed for 3 months.
Good for you.
Yeah. Well, it kind of makes you feel a little, it's like, holy cow, somebody paid for this twice, or, then of course, well, can you reuse it? And it's like, well, not ethically. If I went and did something for myself and I wanted to reuse these doors, but I'm not going to sell those doors to someone else.
Correct.
So you'd be amazed how much glass and whatnot goes in the dumpster. We get people, you're going to throw that away? You're going to throw that away? But it's when you haul it all the way back to my shop and store it to try to sell it on Facebook Marketplace.
Well, yeah, that's a tough one there.
Yeah,
that's a tough one there.
First reach out is
your contractors or anything like that,
or you
might
go
use
to the original owner. Because if depending on his agreement, he might be the one footing the tenant improvement sometimes as a landlord improvement for the exterior. Now interior wise, Old Navy would pay for all that.
Absolutely.
But reach out to them and say, do you have a use for this? And it's never a use for them. So throw it away.
Do you ever reach out to like contractors or
we've
like that and say, hey, we just did this. Like this glass is 3 months old, man. It's whatever. 72 by 72. Do you got a use for it? Because I'll give you a deal on it. Everybody can win then.
Sometimes guys, or we'll keep in the back of our mind, I'll have a list going here and there, or I know a guy was looking for something and maybe he couldn't afford it, brand new, and we took out something that was, above,
similar to what they want or
fair condition, and it would be useful for what he needs, and or she, and other stuff that we do sometimes, we do a lot of replacement, so you have demolition. And, if it comes out in good repair, we have a couple local fire departments that they use it for training.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, we take a hollow metal steel door or something out with the frame out of an opening and it wasn't mangled and can be used. They can do their training.
Oh, that's perfect then.
Blow
that works.
thing up.
That probably works really great.
Yeah, it's fun, but yeah, that's it's always, the products change, specifications by architects, or they'll kind of get married to something. You'll see it show up in a lot of specs, like a certain type of glass or, colors, there's trends, black is everywhere, and dark bronze they started making dark bronze, almost so dark, extra dark bronze that it almost looks black. It's hard to
like the glass itself you're talking?
The actual aluminum.
Okay.
For the framing.
Yeah.
So, so like what we do, we fabricate. So if we bid a job and we're awarded the job and they've got, say 20, we do a big precast building and they've got 20 4-foot by 4-foot, we call them punched windows up in the clear story. We order all of our aluminum and it comes in and, they're 24-foot and change stock lengths. We field measure, draw them up. Sometimes they're predetermined sizes. They're going to guarantee the rough opening. Just guaranteed to be wrong. And so we draw them up and put them in a, just software estimating program and print.
Sorry, that caught me guaranteed to be wrong.
It's the truth.
Well, that's
every contractor wants to do it to speed up the pace, and then you get there with everything built, and it's not the right size, and we got to be the ones to tell them to fix it. And then how much time did that take?
Oh, shit.
It's happened more often than to the point where we tell them, no, we're going to field measure everything. I mean, some guys dial it in.
And you probably know those guys, right?
We know those guys.
Those contractors you use all the time, you say, yeah, he's good. If he tells you this is what it is, that's what it is. Now, if Kyle over there tells you this is what it is, don't take his word on it. Let's just bring it in bulk. We'll cut it down.
With shower doors and that, you get guys that do phenomenal tile jobs, and it's framed up real nice. It's beautiful. And you get other guys that you're like, well, I'm going to have to account for a little extra time or, out of square here and there and make all these adjustments. But yeah, you know what you're going into, but we do our best to align ourselves with, people that provide the same quality that we expect, and kind of start to thin out the ones that aren't a good fit for your company.
And you know that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to figure that out. You're going to know which guys you want to keep coming in, and the other guys you're like, well, I know if I'm going to deal with them, we got to do things a little bit different at that point.
Right. And so yeah, we we'll fabricate those window frames in-house, and you place a glass order, shortly after measure once you've got everything drawn up, and bend up any brake metal flashing, anything you need to do a full installation, do all that in-house as much as you can. So it's ready to go to the job site, load it up in trailers, and take it to the job site.
How do you guys haul the glass to the job site?
So you've probably maybe seen them going down the road a few times. They're big racks sticking out the sides and going over the roof.
Like on a van or a truck or something like that?
They're designed for it, and there's a few manufacturers, but the best ones around are actually made right in Milwaukee by Barco.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep. So they make them, because vehicles are always changing. A lot of companies, including ourselves, have gone to like the Ford Transit vans. There's that style. You don't see many of the older contractor vans around anymore. And so we do racks on both sides and then a rack inside to keep, especially residential glass out of the weather. You can do a shower door, rain or shine, but we keep their glass protected in the van. So, aluminum, stainless steel, all depends what you want, but they custom fabricate them over there. You drop your vehicle off, and they might do more than one, but one gentleman told me, is like, we do one installation a day. A truck comes in there, and you have to, when I've bought service trucks, I've ordered some racks before I found the actual truck that I needed. I was dead set I'm going to get a mid-roof, F-250 Transit van, and ordered the rack and made my deposit before I even had the van in my hand, because at one point it was a month to 2 months just to get the racks. Like, well, I can find the vehicle, and that's the one it's going to be.
So those racks, are they made out of wood, styrofoam?
Aluminum or stainless steel. There's a couple different, ones you can get. They make all different variations. You can add roof racks. You can add accessories. You can get, they make one that's like it's called the workhorse, Iron Horse or Workhorse, and that's like fully cabbed, where you remove the whole bed of the truck and you replace it with that, and you can step up in it. It's got like a translucent roof to keep light in there. That keeps those are awesome, because you can keep all your tools and everything out of sight, out of mind, and out of the weather.
Gotcha.
But they're just kind of mounted like not as steep as an A, but they're just mounted, and they've got crossbars. So both sides of your truck, you can haul your pieces of glass. Job site delivery directly from your supplier is an option. It's a small fee. Sometimes it's worth it just to have them send the truck.
I was just going to say, if you got if you're doing a big warehouse and you got 40 pieces of glass, hey, just bring that baby out.
Yeah.
So instead of you driving over to load it up, secure it down, and then maybe you only get 20 pieces on the truck or in the van, then you got to take it over, and you got to make a second trip where just bring it out.
Yeah.
And then we're done.
What I started to do, because unfortunately, at least in my opinion, the job sites and all that are so fast paced these days. If I remember when I very first started doing it, you could pull up to a job site and they may have a staging area for, all right, glass guy, your guys' bucks are going to be delivered here, and you can keep them here, and we throw tarps over them and just drive the truck over there, pick off what you need, drive up next to the opening, do all that. And it's just so fast paced now that it's just like there's too much room for possible damage. It could be a nice large building with not a whole lot of band, area around it.
Right.
And there's no place to put 10, 15 skids of glass, and vandalism can be an issue in certain areas you're working. Just the dust from construction, getting in there in between, if it's not all covered up. I mean, we make a great effort to cover it all up, but safest practice and what I've done is I've got a good sized flatbed trailer, and they come on L skids. So we have forklift and whatnot at our shop. I load those right onto the trailer, and we can take them when we need to take them.
Perfect.
So it's a little bit extra, but a trailer can hold like 9,000 pounds. So we can put a lot of glass on there, more than guys would probably put in a day.
Yeah, and the good part about that is all of a sudden they say, hey, we're going to be ready for you next Tuesday. Well, your stuff's not there now. Now, next Monday night or next Tuesday morning, you can deliver the glass and get started.
Yep. And control the lead time a little bit, just the deliveries always can be a fiasco. Just even the coordination. The truck driver shows up, and he shows up at 5, and superintendent left out at 3:30 on a Friday, and
now
here's your delivery, and it's chained up and locked, and it's in Milwaukee, and I don't even know the code of the gate, But Yeah, so that's for commercial. We typically haul it on our flatbed or put it on the side of our trucks, and then all of our residential stuff goes right on the side of our trucks.
That's perfect, man.
If we have a large window order, a lot of times just direct delivery to a house or a business, and then and that would be your residential style windows.
Yeah, so like if I had to. If I called you up and said, "Hey, Jordan, come do the windows in my house." I mean, obviously, I need to come in lower than everybody else. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come do the windows on my house. You got it set up. You can come do that, no problem.
Yeah, and then it's just a matter of just staging and making sure you've got all your materials and doing a good walk around. We've got our own scissor lifts and boom lift. So any second story, third story, fourth story work, we have the ability to reach that.
You can do all that.
That was a big step up or game changer, because the typical rents on a boom lift were around $2,000 a month.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
And it's one of those deals where if you use it, nothing's ever perfect. So if you rent it for a week,
it rains for 4 days.
Yeah, and you got to go into 2 weeks. You're better off just renting it for the month. And then what would kind of hurt sometimes is, everything looks good on paper and on the schedule, what they tell you, and there can be setbacks on the project. Well, maybe due to mobilization, or they're going to start masonry over on the north elevation, you're going to get in there, and they want you to move off, or, you're in each other's way, so you start over on the south, and next thing you know, all the masons are behind, or the glass got back ordered a week, or they back ordered it. It never fails. Sometimes, not to harp on suppliers, but I could have something as small as a 30 unit glass order, and they'll ship 28, and 2 more are going to come. Now they have breakage and that type of stuff happens, but it's like, holy cow, if you're going to ship me 30 and only deliver 28, you might as well only sent me 10.
Yeah.
Because it never fails, those couple you're missing, or, it's
are the specific ones.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. If you have all like sizes, you get away from that, but that's not typically the way it works. Almost every, you don't want huge caulk joints or anything on that. So you try to tailor them to each opening if you can.
Right.
Versus a one size fits all. But yeah, that's just making sure, all your ducks are in a row. And with that lift situation is when you're renting them for that price a month, and you only maybe had a couple grand, maybe $2,500 in your bid for the lift, and you just kind of got caught between weeks where you had bad weather, and all of a sudden it's into the next month and you were bidding it to be competitive. Now you have $4,000 worth of lift rental. So, $1,500 just came right out
you got it
right out the bottom line.
You got it.
And it was nothing you could control. And
shit
sometimes
happens.
Yeah.
That we've had that conversation. Shit happens. And you try to look for that, but it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
Jordan, man, this has been awesome. I learned a hell of a lot from you today.
I mean,
and
it's kind of cool to reminisce sometimes, even for myself. But yeah, I'm proud of the crew. I'm proud of what everybody's done. And
you guys come down this far?
Yeah, we do. I live in Delavan, so
perfect.
Yeah.
So if anybody in the area needs some glass,
yep, we'd be happy
Jordan
to help.
call.
I appreciate it.
Baker Glass up there in Fort Atkinson.
Yes, sir.
They'll take care of you. Man, thanks for coming down and doing this. This is awesome. I had a blast.
Thanks for the invite.
We'll do it next time.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thanks.